Christy Cardillo. This is Bradenton Kiwanis Club. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you. Please join me in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Mr. Minor, if you would lead us in the invocation.
Yeah, would you pray with us, please? Dear Lord Jesus, I just want to thank you for this time that's come together this morning. It's a very volatile time in our history, Lord, and I just want to pray to give us wisdom and guidance on how we continue to try to be the best that we can to serve the children of Manatee County. Bless this food to our nourishment and to you service. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Andy. You guys may be seated. And Mac, I missed getting the guest list, so I want to announce who our guests are. Here he comes. Wow. So this part is us getting back to normal. So we have 3 guests today here in the room. We have Danny Anderson, who came with Chad Choate from Walden Jenkins. Hi, Danny. And then Greg Campbell brought 2 guests from Pier 22, Dolly Lutz.
This is Larry, no sir.
And Stephanie Shipman. See, we're a fun group, can you tell?
Right.
We just take technical difficulties and roll with them. So at this time, I just want to thank you guys for coming as guests. And if you're interested in joining Bradenton Kiwanis, please see myself, Mac, or Sharon and Jack. You guys can raise your hands. They're the membership committee chairs. So any of them are happy to talk to you about membership in the club. And with that, I'm going to invite Gilbert to come up right in the middle of taking a bite of his lunch to talk to us about a page of his history.
Hello everybody, and welcome. I'm going to read you some history today and talk about what we've been doing for many months. I, or David Bassett, have been reading about the history of Bradenton Kiwanis from its beginning in 1922. In every newsletter, we will continue to have an article on the history of the club, and I encourage you to read it. And it's really fascinating, the club's growth, and just how successful it's been over the years and through the world with its ability to make financial gifts to community, but also because of its high caliber of its members and leaders. We've now reached a point in time in our club's history that some of us who grew up here and some of us who have been here a long time and some who've been members of this club for many, many years know exactly who I'm talking about and personally know the people that I'm going to be talking about in the history. And so in the future, I may be calling upon some of you who have been members for a long time, or some of you who have been in the community a long time, to talk about some of these people. This week, we're going to talk about the man who was elected in 1939 to be the president of the club in 1940. Lemoyne, you're going to be interested in this story. You're going to really like it, and there may be some others who will like it too. On December 12, 1939, at the regular luncheon meeting, Dr. William Daniel Suggs was elected as the president of the club, along with the other officers and directors. And then just a few days later, the club held its ladies' night and installation dinner at the Dixie Grand Hotel, and Dr. Suggs was sworn in. And as all of you remember from our history, the Dixie Grand Hotel was located on 6th Avenue in downtown Bradenton and 14th Street. One of my jobs after I got out of high school, and I had many, was working as an orderly at the Manatee Memorial Hospital. Boy, do I have some stories I can tell you about that. During that time I was there, Dr. Suggs was still practicing medicine and surgery. He was an older gentleman and quiet and focused on his patients. But I could tell he was a man of great influence. But not knowing then what I know now, I didn't know the extent. At one time, Dr. Suggs was one of the only surgeons in Southwest Florida But his really talent, for a lot of you here today, and Jackie will be interested in this, was he was a master at recruiting volunteers and raising money for charitable organizations in Manatee County. He was born in Brentwood, Tennessee on July 16, 1897, in the 1800s, and he graduated with a bachelor's degree and his medical degree from Vanderbilt University. He began practicing medicine in the mountains of Kentucky. Cliff Walters is from Kentucky. He could probably tell us a lot about Kentucky and practicing law. And Dr. Sugg would ride his horse through the mountains, treating people and taking care of them. It was several years later he returned back to medical school to the University of Pennsylvania, where he became a surgeon. And for a short period of time, he worked as a surgeon and a doctor on a cruise ship. But after vacationing in this area, he decided to move here in 1930. And of course, we were a lot different town back then. And we were getting ready into the Great Depression, even though we were all already having problems economically. He began practicing medicine in the professional building downtown on Manatee Avenue, and he practiced medicine and performed surgery at the Bradenton General Hospital that was on 6th Avenue in downtown Bradenton. And as I stated, for a period of time, he was one of the only surgeons in Southwest Florida and was in great demand. Now, he helped establish the Veterans Memorial Hospital, which of course became the Manatee Memorial Hospital. But his involvement in organizations was extraordinary. He could raise so much money, he could get so many volunteers, and he had sort of a tactic he would use to invite people to his home, and he wouldn't let them leave until he got some money from them. And he was able to find people who could contribute a lot of money. So let me tell you about some of the things he influenced here, which he was the leader of, and really helped them succeed. The Manatee Chamber of Commerce, Jackie, the South Florida Museum and Bishop Planetarium, the Sarasota Orchestra, the West Coast Symphony, Oslo Theater, Manatee Players, Janine, and DeSoto National Park. Now, Dr. Sugg joined Dr. Blake of Blake Hospital, which wasn't around for many, many years, in donating all the land that is now DeSoto National Park on the Manatee River. And so next time you're there, think about Dr. Sugg, because it wouldn't be there. He also donated parcels of land around the county, including all the land for Jesse P. Miller, a park on 43rd Street, the park at the St. Stephen's School and their expansion, and many other areas. He donated a lot of land. And of course, those of us that have been around here a long time understand that he was one of our distinguished citizens. And of course, he, here in 1940, as president of this club, made us all proud. He has, of course, had one of the schools in the area named after him. And he died on December 5th, 1981, at the age of 84. Now, I know there's a lot of people in our club that are members, and a lot of the former presidents and former members of this club that probably knew Dr. Sugg. And I hope in this next year or two, when we celebrate our 100th year, we'll talk more about Dr. Sugg. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you for bringing the history to life for us. So I have a couple of announcements before we get to our program. Welcome for everyone who's here in our in-person meeting today. I just want to bring to everyone's attention that the theater does have a mandate that masks are required to be worn while in the building. Please make sure to place your mask back on once you're done eating your meal to respect their rules. Thank you for making that easier for all of us who have to be able to keep having in-person meetings. Our meetings are on Zoom and in person. If you're wanting to attend a meeting at the hall in person, you do need to purchase a ticket through the box office for $13.50. We're paying for meals as we go. So if you're coming, to the meeting, you need to have a purchase ticket. The hard cutoff to purchase a ticket to attend is on the previous Friday at 5 p.m. of the meeting, the following meeting week. The day of attending, entry to come in is in the stairwell door unless the front doors are open. You do need your temperature taken and you need to sign in. That stairwell door, if it's the only door we have, it will lock at 12:10 so that that person can come up and enjoy the meeting. So get here early. Also wanted to announce that we will be having a foundation board meeting on November 3rd at 5 p.m. It will be located right here in Kiwanis Hall, which is a change. We will also have it available on Zoom. We have more people attending than we had expected, so that way we can space out and be socially distanced. I want to give a huge thank you to those people who are volunteering on Thursday and Friday for Food for Families with Meals on Wheels in Manatee County. I believe, and Neil's here, yeah, I think all the slots are full.
We're all full.
That's awesome. See, we're all full. Everybody stepped forward and volunteered. We do have some volunteer opportunities that are opening up as we get into the holiday seasons. The Salvation Army Angel Tree is going to be virtual this year. There is if you go onto the calendar, you will see where you can link into it. They're going to open up on November 1st. It's a virtual tree, so you pick your child, and then it has several options on there for you to pick how to get the items. A huge thank you to Kelly French and Mac Aldridge for making that happen. And then continue to watch the newsletter because we're going to be announcing things about Christmas tree sales, sign up for the Boys and Girls Club, and ringing the kettlebell for the Salvation Army too as we go along. Now, those are all the announcements. With that, Gilbert, do you want to come up and introduce our speaker?
We're very fortunate and just blessed to have Jacki Dezelski in our community that runs the Manatee Chamber of Commerce. Jacki is such a veteran to our community and has been here for so long that she has a relationship with this club and, of course, to our beloved Bob Bartz before her. And not only is she a friend to the club, a friend of mine, but she's a friend of yours and has led the chamber now for quite a few years. I got to know her when I was working quite a bit with the Legislative Affairs Committee and really enjoyed it to see her leadership. But she's done everything in the chamber that you would think that someone could do, and then she, of course, has succeeded in becoming now Bob Bartz's successor. So, Jacki.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, fellow Kiwanians. It is great to be here, and with this hybrid opportunity that Bradenton Kiwanis has embraced over the past several weeks, I'm not sure whether to try to look at the camera on the laptop for those joining us or out here, so I'll be looking. You're pointing, oh, that camera, okay. The camera in the audience, which with my poor vision, I can barely see, so. But thank you, and Judge, thank you so much for that introduction. And yes, everyone in the room, even if you're a new Kiwanian who didn't have the good fortune of working with Bob Bartz, knows Bob's legacy. And so what a privilege it is for me and the team to continue on with the Manatee Chamber's mission in serving our region, the businesses therein, as well as the community as at a whole, knowing that not only is our mission to ensure an economically viable, healthy community for businesses, but also those quality of life issues that we all treasure and are the reasons that we want to live here and locate our businesses. And there are so many past chairmen of the board of the Manatee Chamber who are Bradenton Kiwanis Club members. There's even some in the room here and on Zoom with us as well. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for the continued leadership. In speaking with Christy Cardillo, gosh, a few months ago, in thinking about future programming for Bradenton Kiwanis, I knew at that point that the Manatee Chamber was going to have the opportunity to serve as a partner with Manatee County government in helping with outreach related to the CARES Act grant programs. And so I am going to share the screen now for those that are on the call, and let's see if this works. If I've taken my lessons well, I hope everyone on the Zoom can see these slides. But I'm going to go through some of the information that I think you all, as community leaders, should know about the CARES Act program and its impact here locally, and the opportunities that still exist for us to draw down those dollars to benefit the economy, businesses, nonprofits, agencies, and residents in Manatee County. If you take nothing else away from the presentation, know this website, mymanatee.org/Manatee Cares. All of the grant programs and information that I'll be covering today is available in some form or fashion through links on Manatee County's website. So I encourage you, if you haven't spent time on the county's website, please do that, and that's the important web address for you. As I mentioned, the Manatee Chamber is an official partner with the county with relation to outreach on the CARES Act program. And you ask, what does that mean? Well, it means the Chamber has embraced a number of new responsibilities and opportunities to expand our mission, knowing that getting these dollars circulated, particularly for small businesses, absolutely aligns with the work that the Chamber should be doing on behalf of our members, but also on behalf of all businesses in our region. And so all of what I'm talking about today with regards to the Chamber helping really applies to all businesses in our region. So as I mentioned, communications is very important. So many of you are plugged in with the Manatee Chamber and have seen the many opportunities that we have taken to supply information to businesses and nonprofits and their employees related to the 4 different grants opportunities that are available through the CARES Act program in Manatee County. Website information, social media outreach, meetings like today, as well as an important opportunity to get information into the community. To date, in just the past 3 weeks, we have conducted, using the Chamber staff, we have visited more than 350 businesses in person to share information about the CARES Act program specifically for small businesses. Many of you know that the latest round of small business applications opened up again last week. And so in preparation for that reopening of the application cycle, we felt a tremendous sense of responsibility to knock on doors to ensure that businesses who may not yet be connected with us on social media, may not be reading columns in the newspaper, which they should be, know about the program. And so we visited more than 350 businesses in just 2 weeks to be able to prepare the business community for that opening last Wednesday. Additionally, and probably the largest load that we're carrying right now as the Manatee Chamber is functioning as what the county has called a navigator, which really means that we're answering the helpline. So if you go to the county's website and land on the business grant, the small business grant page, it says, need help? Call this number. Well, that number rings at the Manatee Chamber. So we have one of the county lines that's now forwarded to the front desk at the Manatee Chamber, and you'll see there on the slide that I checked this about an hour before today's meeting, and we had already logged in 599 calls. And I'll tell you, a number of those calls are very in-depth conversations, helping businesses, helping residents walk through the criteria and the guidelines, walk through the application, the documentation that's needed to be able to apply for these grants, and answering a heck of a lot of questions. And so hats off to the Chamber team. It is absolutely a team effort and a group effort for us to be able to serve in this capacity. So I wanted to cover a couple of slides that relate to statistics so that you all, as the business leaders in the Manatee County region, can understand the volume of requests that have come in and know how many dollars have already now been committed to flow into our community using this federal stimulus package. I think you all are great advocates and ambassadors for how important getting these funds flowing and circulating in our community are. So I'll concentrate first on the small business grants. We kind of shortened the long name of the Safety First Small Business Grant. And so on screen you'll see an abbreviated list of the criteria or the eligibility requirements for a small business to apply for this grant. That is that the business needs to be able to document a loss related to the governor's Safer at Home orders, 500 or fewer employees, of course located in Manatee County. Unlike some other assistance programs, and unlike the first round of eligibility for these grants, a business can have access to PPP or EIDL assistance programs and still apply for Manatee County's CARES Act grant. What's available currently during the open round that we're in right now is that small businesses can apply for up to $5,000 to help cover costs related to PPE for their businesses. So whether that's the hand sanitizing stations, extra cleaning supplies that they've needed to prepare their workspaces for their employees and their customers and clients. It could be those plexiglass partitions that people have installed at front desk areas, reception areas. There's a whole list of eligible expenses that now can be reimbursed up to $5,000 through this grant program. Probably even more of an impact is the ability of a small business to apply for up to $45,000 to cover documented losses related to COVID. So I'll show you some of the statistics so you can understand how many businesses are attempting to take advantage of these grants and believe that they meet the eligibility. In rounds 1 and 2 of the small business grants, more than 700 applications were submitted. And to date, in rounds 1 and 2, more than $5 million has already been committed through the current progress of processing those 700 plus applications. In talking with county staff yesterday to prepare for today's discussion, they anticipate that the budget that could be allocated for round 2 applications, once they're through all of those, could be approximately $10 million of assistance to small businesses. As I've mentioned many times already, round 3 is currently open, and as of yesterday, 364 applications now are added to that number as they've been submitted within the last week during round 3. So I would say one thing that has struck me during the process of working with the county to be a partner in reaching out to the small business community, as we believe our responsibility is as the chamber, is that a few months ago, the county had no infrastructure, no anticipation of needing to be able to handle this volume of information and applications. Their staff wasn't trained to read P&Ls of small businesses to be able to verify documented losses, much less all of the other documentation that understandably is required through the application. So I've heard the analogy over the past month or so in talking about what the county has had to stand up as far as infrastructure and processing and staff training is they've been building an airplane while they're flying it. And not only that, but like lots of things related to these assistance programs at all levels of government, the model of that airplane has changed mid-flight. And so hats off to the county for working so hard to be able to get through this process and approving and reviewing and approving these grants as quickly as possible. With that, I'll switch over to the grants that are available to nonprofits and community organizations, community partners. They call them the Community Health and Wellbeing Grants. This too is in round 3 of applications. Round 1, you'll see 109 applications were approved for nonprofits and community organizations serving clients in Manatee County for just over $7 million worth of support for the programming of those nonprofits serving our residents here. In round 2, 95 applications were approved for almost $4.5 million worth of support. Round 3 is open now. What is available to nonprofits as far as applications for round 3 is up to $5,000 to cover PPE expenses, as well as a pool of money for nonprofits that are meeting food distribution needs within the community. So round 3 eligibility is a bit different than it was in round 1 or 2 in that they are really concentrating on reimbursing nonprofits for PPE and meeting that critical need within food distribution. You'll see for round 3, as of yesterday, 15 applications have been approved so far. They just opened up last week for $114,000 worth of support, and they anticipate this round 3 budget for nonprofits to include the PPE and the food distribution to land somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. So add that to what's out in round 1 and 2, and it's significant support for the mission and the need of the services of these nonprofit and community organizations. Another grant opportunity is for housing assistance, what's commonly referred to within those of us speaking the lingo as the HAP program. And this is rent and mortgage assistance for residents of Manatee County. Tomorrow, the 4th round of applications will open up to eligible individuals within our community. I've listed there on screen, I won't read it for you, but the eligibility that's required for residents of Manatee County to apply if they are delinquent in their rent or mortgage payments and can document the income loss being directly related to COVID-19. Again, much more detailed eligibility criteria is available on the county's website. To give you an idea as to how this assistance is starting to flow within our community, these are some numbers that the county shared with me yesterday, assuming I didn't make any typographical errors. I will give that caveat. Any mistakes are my mistakes. Round 1, 114 mortgage and rent assistance applications were approved for just over $500,000 to be able to help families stay in their housing. Round 2, 246 applications were approved for $1.4 million, with some applications still under review. Round 3, 267 applications under review right now. And then, as I mentioned, tomorrow, that application cycle will open again. And we expect a flood of calls tomorrow when that application cycle opens up, because that helpline that the chamber is now staffing is for these housing assistance grants as well. So our team will be hopping, not that they haven't been already. An important feature of the county's website is the dashboard that they stood up, I believe, more than a month ago, to allow you as community members to track the applications, the approved funding, as well as the distribution, the disbursement of that funding as well. So here's a snapshot. I think I took this yesterday. Typically, the county updates those statistics on their dashboard on Wednesdays and Fridays, usually by midday. So this is Friday's update. Again, just talking about these grants and the number of applications. You'll see some of these numbers are lower than the numbers I shared with you. It will always be a bit behind as you think about the cycle and the process of getting these grant applications approved and then under contract and then the money actually dispersed. And so I would say always take it with the eye in checking this dashboard that there will be a gap and a lag time in reporting of what's actually been done and when it's available to be able to update on these dashboards. But it's great for transparency and great for community members that want to understand the impact, the financial impact of getting these dollars circulating in our community. So again, I will give you one more time that website because it's such an important website for you all as leaders to be able to share with those in the community with whom you're talking, your clients, your customers, your employees. If you have employees that you think need access to assistance or help, I hope that you all will have this committed to memory. I'm going to catch myself up here on my written notes as well. I am going to spend just a couple of minutes on a few other initiatives that I think are important for you all as business leaders to know are happening in the community. How many of you have heard of Manatee Strong? I hope pretty much everybody is raising their hand. If not, I'm going to find you on the way out here with my mask on. But very early in this COVID pandemic, as it started impacting our community, our state, and our country, the chamber, like all of us, that P word, that pivot word that I may never use again after 2020 is over, knew that early on we needed a place for the community to come together to share the good news, right? We all remember the emotions that we were experiencing, particularly in that first month or two of this pandemic when there was such incredible uncertainty but so many people that wanted to help. There was so much noise, continues to be, and we wanted there to be official sources of information that were easy to share and easy to find. And so the chamber stood up the Manatee Strong Facebook group within the first few weeks of the governor's safer at home orders, when businesses were beginning to send employees home, restaurants and bars and gyms and salons were starting to close, and we knew we needed to be able to share great news, encouraging news. And so you'll see that now the Manatee Strong Facebook group has grown to more than 7,000 members. We've had almost 100,000 engagements on that Facebook group since we stood that up, and it really is a community-wide audience. Anyone that has opportunity to share official resources and information, those stories about how neighbors are helping neighbors, that's the content that we would like to see continue to populate the Manatee Strong Facebook group. We also determined that very quickly that we needed to stand up an additional website. In addition to the Chamber's website, we knew that we needed there to be kind of a one-stop shop for businesses and residents alike to be able to find, again, links and access to official, accurate, timely information where they didn't have to hunt and peck and Google search all over for what might be available to help them navigate this pandemic. And so Recover Manatee has 4 sections: Relief, Restart, Recover, and Reimagine. And you'll see since launching that website in May, we've had almost 10,000 views and visitors to that site. Many of you know that the Chamber also became a distribution site for masks within the community and saw incredible demand and requests from businesses that wanted to be able to provide masks to their employees. And that was really our target, was to get businesses access to free masks for their employees. You'll see more than 770 businesses to date have requested masks and picked them up at either our Lakewood Ranch or Bradenton office. Almost 45,000 masks have been distributed thanks to the partnership that the Chamber has with the Health Department, the Florida Department of Health in Manatee County, who supplied all of those masks for us. Smallest order was 2 masks for a business. The largest order was a business that asked for 1,200 masks for their workforce. And so it's been a privilege to be able to get those out into the community. To wrap it up so that we have time for Q&A, I wanted to talk with you, just give you a couple ideas of some trending topics that the Chamber is hearing from businesses in particular, and that we're taking a look at how we can add additional resources through the mission of the Chamber. No surprise, maybe for those of you that have accessed this for your own business, the idea of the forgiveness of PPP loans is a high priority right now. Just about 2 hours ago, the Chamber hosted a webinar that was helping businesses start to walk through what that process might look like with their lenders. And I pulled some statistics as well, and you'll see them on screen. More than 12,000 Manatee County businesses accessed a PPP loan of $150,000 or less. If you're looking at those that accessed based on their payroll loans, PPP loans larger than that, that was another 500 businesses. So think about that. Likely more than 13,000 businesses in Manatee County were able to access PPP support to be able to keep their employees employed. Right now, the streamlined forgiveness process applies to those with a $50,000 or less PPP loan. There are going to be some advocacy opportunities I anticipate in the future for Congress to look at increasing that streamlined forgiveness process to those with loans of $150,000 or less. There's a significant difference, and Christy Cardillo could tell you in what that process might look like. And so we'll be keeping an eye on that so that we can advocate for the business community on that process. There still is a significant amount of uncertainty in what business will look like going into 2021, and significant uncertainty about what things will change, how many of these assistance programs will be changing either reporting processes or what have you. And so your Chamber feels a tremendous sense of responsibility to stay on top of these and be able to share that information with the business community. A number of questions still about how businesses and nonprofits that have facilities, how they can help their customers or their clients continue to feel safe, that they have the right health and safety protocols within their business. Lots of questions about CDC and appropriate PPE, all these acronyms that none of us knew even 7 months ago. And so we're there to provide that type of guidance and information as well. Good conversation around how we can bring more information to bear for businesses on how they change their business development plans, right? So lots of folks in business development are people, right? They're used to being face-to-face in talking about their business and promoting that. And so trying to help businesses continue to take advantage of electronic, digital opportunities, but still be effective in sales. And so we're looking at how we can bring some more attention to that to help businesses and their employees continue to thrive and be able to drive business. Still questions related to HR, as you might imagine, for the smallest of businesses that don't have HR professionals on their staff. There's been a lot of questions as things have evolved, as different regulations have changed, and we believe that those questions related to HR will continue into 2021 as well. And so the Chamber looks to stand up additional webinars and support for businesses, particularly the smallest of businesses, in navigating so that they're ensuring that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And businesses overall absolutely want to do the right thing. And so we're helping them navigate that. The likely coming wave of evictions and foreclosures. There are a number of organizations in our community that are looking at this issue even more closely than we are. And so we will look to see how we can be a resource for information for businesses who may have employees that are impacted by this topic. And then, also acknowledging that some segments of the community, some business sectors are doing very well. And so how we capitalize and allow them to help shore up an economy that has had some very, very difficult impacts to certain sectors. And so it's a great reminder to us all as we look long range to strategic planning around our community and economic development, our state as a whole, is how important that diversified economy is to the overall health of our economy. And so with that, I will close it. I don't know if 8 minutes is the right number of minutes or not for Q&A, but thank you all so much for the opportunity to share this information. Again, don't forget mymanatee.org/Manatee Cares. We should all have that burned into our heads to be able to direct individuals and businesses to those grant opportunities. With that, Mac or Christy?
Do you have any questions, Jackie?
Oh, we do. I'm going to take Lemoyne.
In round one of the county stuff, we never got beyond pending because they kept saying it was an incomplete form, and we talked to them and they'd say, oh, it's a complete form, but we never could get past pending. We applied in round two and are still pending. Is it even worth considering putting in the time to do round three?
Well, I'm not sure if those on Zoom could hear that question or not. Lemoyne.
In round one of the county stuff, we never got beyond pending because they kept saying it was an incomplete form, and we talked to them and they'd say, oh, it's a complete form, but we never could get past pending. We applied in round two and are still pending. Is it even worth considering putting in the time to do round three?
Well, I'm not sure if those on Zoom could hear that question or not, but the question is related to if a business applied and is still in a pending status from a previous round, whether or not the advice is to apply again in round three. Lemoyne, please call the chamber today and let Tim, who has access to the neighborly system for the county, to be able to look through the application and what the notes are so that he can help you determine what the best path forward is. Being able to man that helpline has allowed us to have kind of a read-only access to the system so that we can answer some high-level questions related to applications. And you saw that statistic, 599 calls as of about 11 o'clock today. Every one of those calls is a call that didn't end up with the county staffer and allows the county staff to continue to process applications and not be stopped to answer 600 phone calls. So again, I know we've had some people say, does the chamber really want to be doing that? You have plenty of, your typical chamber work to be doing, but it's allowing us to have this partnership so that the county team can stay focused on processing and approving applications.
Thank you.
Once an application is submitted and approved, what's been your experience in terms of the turnaround time for disbursement of funds?
We have heard good feedback that once the application is approved and the agreement, the contract is signed between the entity and the county, that the disbursement is single days. And so I can't give you, I'm sure there are variances to that, but we've heard good feedback from our members on once it's approved, that process is pretty quick after that.
So Jackie, when we applied for the PPP loan, we had to base the amount that we were asking for on two and a half months of expenses, including rent and utilities and payroll. And the forgiveness applications, I understand, have changed and continue to evolve, but now they're saying you can use a 24-week period, and if you use a 24-week period, then you're going to have more than you're going to, just with payroll, you have more than you probably asked for to begin with. So then do you still need to provide all the documentation for utilities and rent and all of those types of things, or just the payroll for 24 weeks?
I'm looking to our CPA, who just presented on this topic this morning,
You
related
obviously
to...
didn't listen to the chamber webinar that was before this.
I was having technical difficulties.
Oh, so, if you go out to the 24 weeks, yes, that gives you more time to have more of the payroll and rent, all those expenses to get the forgiveness. You do still have to file an application. It depends on which of the 3 versions you file, whether or not you have to provide certain documentation. So there's the one for $50,000 and under the loan, you don't have to provide anything, you just have to self-certify. The EZ form, you have to have not had any payroll reduced, and you have to certify that. I still recommend you go through the calculations, because you do need to keep them if they get asked for later. And then the full application, you gotta prove that you didn't reduce your FTEs, and you didn't reduce your payroll by 25%. And it's by employee.
So if you use the $50,000 or less, then you just need to certify you don't provide any documentation?
Correct. You still have to file it though.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And you can call me later, Tom. Go ahead, Jack.
Andy.
You said that with the wave of evictions and foreclosures, has the chamber done any conversations with the landlords in the commercial buildings to see what they're expecting from foreclosures, or if they're expecting for business closures going forward once this current round runs out?
Those conversations have come, but not in as great a volume as I expected. And for those on the Zoom call, the question was related to the expected wave of evictions and foreclosures. What have we heard from commercial property managers? So I just wanted everyone on the electronic side to know what we're talking about. As I said, we've had conversations related to that and questions in trying to interpret what the governor's orders compared to what the federal orders are on those moratoriums. But it's not as high a volume as I would have anticipated.
One other follow-up that, is the chamber doing anything as far as educating consumers who may have applied for a forbearance, so they understand what that math looks like, what that calculation looks like going down the road when that money does come due?
The question was whether or not the chamber has done an education campaign for borrowers on forbearance. And we have not made a concerted effort in that arena. However, I've seen plenty of lenders that have put lots of information out regarding what that really means and what it looks like. And as you mentioned, Andy, what's coming down the pike for those when that money is due. Any other questions? Do questions come in via Zoom as well? Am I supposed to be monitoring that?
I don't know.
Quickly, when you talked about the different programs on the small business one, you had mentioned the $45,000 loss of income. I was speaking with someone last week who thought that this round that may apply to nonprofits as well. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I have not heard that they are expanding the business loss to nonprofits in Manatee County. My understanding is that Sarasota County's grant program currently does allow 501c3 and C6 organizations to claim a business loss, but that is not the criteria or eligibility for Manatee County's program currently.
Any other questions? So that is the interesting thing. Every county has set up rules that are different. We're just making it fun, We're responding to a crisis and making it fun all at the same time for everyone. I want to thank Jackie. When you think of resiliency in the midst of a crisis, I think of Jackie. This has not been the easiest thing to get through, and she and I have had many, many conversations, and You know, it's been quite a lot to figure out, you know, put your finger on the mark of what we're supposed to do. It is a constantly moving and changing response to everything that's going on. So very much appreciate her leadership at the chamber and her leadership to the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It is absolutely a team. I do nothing alone, and in fact, I'm probably the least important cog in the whole cycle.
So I have a golden ruler for Jackie. I am sure she has a drawer full of golden rulers, but I'm still giving her one to measure her future success and the chamber's future success. Thank you very much.
I'll get it when I get back.
I also want to thank our guests that have attended. Please consider joining. You know, we are back to live meetings and Zoom meetings, so however you would like to join, we would like to have you be a part of the Kiwanis family. It's a great group of people. I'm not going to go back through the announcements again. Just know that the foundation meeting that's on November 3rd will be here. If you show up at my office, the doors will be locked. And also, our next meeting next week on November 3rd, Election Day, Gilbert kind of pulled this one out of the side here. We're going to have the Honorable Judge Ferentz present. We're going to hear his thoughts and experience, and it should be a lot of fun from what I understand about Judge Ferentz. I'm excited to meet him. So, and with that, we're going to adjourn our meeting, and I want to thank you all for coming and joining us online and in person.